He was boxing's golden boy, an Olympic hero, a champion in 6 weight divisions, and one of the most recognizable faces in sports history. Oscar de la Hoya wasn't just a fighter. He was a brand, a movement, a global phenomenon. But now, at just 52 years old, he's facing the toughest fight of his life. Reports have confirmed that De La Hoya is in critical condition, battling a severe medical emergency. The man who once dazzled crowds with lightning-fast hands and Hollywood charisma now lies in a hospital bed vulnerable and silent. This is more than a health crisis. It's the painful unraveling of a life built in the spotlight. The rise, the fame, the demons, and now the fall. This is the tragic turn in the story of Oscar de la Hoya. Oscar de la Hoya was born on February 4, 1973 in East Los Angeles, into a working-class Mexican-American family, where boxing wasn't just a sport, it was a way of life. His father had been a professional fighter in Mexico, and his grandfather also laced up gloves, creating a generational bond rooted in discipline and pride. From an early age, Oscar was seen as a prodigy. He was fast-focused and carried a sense of purpose that exceeded his years. But behind his natural talent was the heavy emotional weight of family expectations and sacrifice. His mother, Cecilia, was the heart of his world-supportive strong, and the quiet force behind his rise when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. During Oscar's teenage years, everything changed. Despite the heartbreak of losing her in 1990, Oscar, pressed on tragedy, shaped his mission: win Olympic gold for her. And in 1992, at just 19 years old, Oscar de la Hoya captured the gold medal at the Barcelona Olympics for the United States. His performance wasn't just brilliant, it was poetic after his win. He looked up toward the sky and whispered, "This is for my mom. I know she's watching that moment." Resonated with million overnight, he became America's sweetheart, the clean-cut kid from East L.A. who fought, not for fame or fortune, but for his family. It was that mix of talent, humility, and emotional resonance that earned him his legendary nickname, the Golden Boy, after the Olympics. Oscar de la Hoya's rise was nothing short of electric, signed with top-rank promotions, and made his professional debut in November 1992. From the very beginning, it was clear he was not just a skilled boxer. He was a star. He knocked out his first opponent in the first round, and that became a pattern. By 1996, he had already won titles in multiple weight classes, showing not just speed and technique, but also the rare ability to adapt and dominate across divisions. His good looks, bilingual charm, and rags to riches story made him a marketing dream appealing to both Latino audiences and mainstream America. He wasn't ducking competition either. De la Hoya took on the best. He beat Julio Cesar Chavez twice, cementing his place as a generational figure in Mexican-American boxing. He outboxed Pernell Whitaker, one of the most elusive fighters in history, and went to war with Ike Cortez in one of the grittiest fights of the era. By the late 1990s, he had collected world championships in the lightweight, light welterweight, and welterweight divisions, and was quickly ascending the super welterweight ranks. He won 31 straight fights, an astonishing streak that made him not just a champion, but a pay-per-view titan. De la Hoya wasn't just a fighter. He was a business. Every fight was a sold-out event. Every commercial deal boosted his crossover appeal. He was boxing's biggest draw and one of its few modern mainstream celebrities. His fame reached beyond the ring. He released a Grammy-nominated Latin pop album, became a fashion icon, and was a guest on late-night shows for a moment. In 2008, time seemed Oscar de la Hoya could do no wrong. But the spotlight, as always, casts long shadows, and the pressure that came with his meteoric rise would soon begin to take a toll. As Oscar de la Hoya's fame soared, so did the crushing pressure to maintain the image of the golden boy with Hollywood good looks, clean-cut charisma, and a smile that graced billboards and magazine covers. He wasn't just a boxer. He was a pop culture icon. Endorsement deals with McDonald's, Nike, and other major brands followed, placing him in a rare category of athlete, a boxer who was as comfortable in commercials as he was in the ring for fans and the media alike. He was the golden standard, the perfect blend of talent, charm, and humility. But behind the spotlight, a storm was quietly building. Being the golden boy wasn't just a nickname. It was a burden. There was no room for mistakes, no space for vulnerability. Every fight wasn't just about victory. It was about preserving an image. De la Hoya trained relentlessly, gave endless interviews, posed for cameras, and signed autographs, all while carrying the invisible weight of perfection. The public expected him to be invincible, but few noticed the toll it was taking. Behind the scenes, Oscar began battling inner demons. Friends and insiders whispered about signs of emotional burnout and mental fatigue. The first cracks started to show in the form of alcohol abuse, something Oscar kept under wraps for years. He later admitted he used alcohol to cope with pressure and numb emotional pain. His personal relationships began to strain. Public appearances remained polished, but privately. Oscar struggled with depression and a growing sense of isolation. "I was trying to be someone I wasn't," he admitted in a later interview. The very image that made him a star was also the one that slowly broke him. The pressure to be perfect, to never show weakness, became a silent opponent, one that didn't step into the ring but hit just as hard by the mid. Oscar de la Hoya was still one of boxing's most recognizable names, but the sharp edge that once defined him had begun to dull. Age was creeping in, and the sport's next generation was hungry. In 2007, he agreed to face Floyd Mayweather Jr., a brash and undefeated defensive genius who was quickly climbing the ranks. The fight was marketed as a clash of eras, the established superstar versus the rising king. It became one of the biggest pay-per-view events in boxing history, pulling in record numbers inside the ring. It was a chess match. Oscar had moments of success, applying pressure and using his size, but Mayweather's precision and ring IQ proved too much. The bout ended in a split decision, with Mayweather declared the winner. Some fans cried foul, others agreed, but what no one could deny was that a changing of the guard had taken place. Still, Oscar wasn't ready to walk away, but his next opponent would give him no choice. In 2008, he faced Manny Pacquiao, smaller in size, but a force of nature. Pacquiao didn't just beat De La Hoya. He overwhelmed him. From the first, Oscar looked sluggish. Drained and outmatched, Pacquiao's speed, volume, and relentless pressure left Oscar battered and unable to answer. Back at the end of the 8th round, his corner did what few ever dared. They stopped the fight. It was a humbling, almost surreal sight. Boxing's once untouchable golden boy, sitting bruised and defeated in his corner. After the fight, Oscar spoke with rare vulnerability. "My heart still wants to fight, but my body just can't do it anymore." The words hit fans hard. This wasn't just a boxer admitting defeat. It was a man reckoning with the end of his identity. In 2009, he officially retired, but retirement didn't bring the peace he'd hoped for. Instead, it opened the door to deeper battles with addiction, loneliness, and the haunting question, who was Oscar de la Hoya without the ring, after stepping away from the ring? In 2009, Oscar De La Hoya didn't fade into retirement. He pivoted into power. He founded Golden Boy Promotions, one of the most successful boxing promotion companies in the world. Unlike other promoters who kept fighters at a distance, De La Hoya marketed Golden Boy as a company for fighters. By a fighter, he was changing the game, offering better contracts, more transparency, and empowering athletes in ways he never experienced. As a young champion, he signed major talent, like Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, and even promoted some of Floyd Mayweather's early events for a time. He looked like the rare fighter who could master both the sport and the business behind it. But while the public saw a polished entrepreneur in expensive suits behind the scenes, Oscar was unraveling the Golden Boy image, became a mask he wore, while battling deeper issues. There were growing whispers, stories of mood swings, business disputes, and odd behavior during media events. Friends said he seemed unstable, sometimes disappearing for stretches or lashing out unexpectedly as his company grew. So did the pressure, and the facade began to crack. Even as he stood at the head of one of boxing's biggest companies, La Hoya was privately descending into depression and substance abuse. He once said in an interview, "I had everything and still felt empty." The contradiction was staggering. The man who had inspired millions, who had risen from the streets of East LA to the highest levels of global fame, was struggling to hold it together. His suits were tailored, but his life was in chaos. Fame gave him power, but it also gave him expectations he couldn't always live up to. Behind the image of a sharp businessman was still the boy who never had time to heal the cracks in Oscar. De La Hoya's carefully constructed persona finally became public in the form of leaked photos, tabloid scandals, and a series of troubling incidents that made headlines. One of the most damaging moments came when photos surfaced of him wearing women's lingerie images that quickly went viral and became the subject of public ridicule. At first, he denied them. Later, he admitted they were real, captured during a time of drug use and emotional collapse. The Golden Boy image had officially shattered as the media storm swirled. Oscar entered rehab for alcohol and substance abuse. It wouldn't be his last time. Over the next several years, he would check into treatment more than once, each time making a public statement about getting better, only for old demons to resurface. The man who once walked into the ring to cheering crowds was now walking into rehab centers under a cloud of pain and confusion. In a 2017 interview, De La Hoya finally opened up about the toll it had taken. "I hated myself. I didn't want to be Oscar anymore." That raw honesty resonated with many. He wasn't just a fallen star, but a human being unraveling under the immense weight of fame, trauma, and unaddressed grief. He spoke of depression, of hiding his pain with alcohol and drugs, and of feeling like a stranger in his own skin. Despite everything, Oscar tried to make comebacks, both in the ring and in his personal life. He teased returns to boxing, even training for exhibition matches, but none materialized in a meaningful way. His body, once a machine of precision and power, simply couldn't take the punishment anymore. He also tried to repair broken relationships with his children, with business partners, and with himself. It wasn't about legacy anymore. It was about survival through therapy, rehab, and self-reflection. Oscar began the long road toward healing, but the scars, emotional, spiritual, and physical, remained. His story became less about title and more about redemption, and as he aged, one thing became clear. Oscar De La Hoya wasn't just fighting for the spotlight anymore. He was fighting for peace in 2021 at the age of 48. Oscar de la Hoya shocked the boxing world by announcing his return to the ring after more than a decade of retirement. A string of personal battles and numerous trips to rehab. The former champion claimed he was ready to make a comeback. It wasn't just about proving something to fans. It was about proving something to himself. He trained intensely, shedding weight and pushing his aging body to the limit, in preparation for a scheduled exhibition bout against former UFC star Victor Belfort. The fight was set for September 2021, and anticipation grew as footage of Oscar's training sessions circulated online. He looked focused, lean, and hungry to reclaim a sense of purpose. But just days before the event, Oscar was hospitalized with COVID-19. He was forced to withdraw from the fight and released a shaky, breathless video from his hospital bed saying, "I mean, what are the chances of me getting COVID? I've been taking care of myself. This really, really kicked my butt." The illness took a major toll, though. He eventually recovered enough to return home. Those close to him claimed he was never the same. Reports emerged that Oscar continued to struggle with lingering symptoms, fatigue, trouble breathing, and chronic inflammation. The comeback he had dreamed of never happened behind the scenes. Doctors reportedly warned him against fighting again. His body had already endured decades of punishment, ring wars, injuries, substance abuse, and now a serious viral infection. Though he remained active in promoting fights and appeared at events, Oscar stopped mentioning any serious return to the ring. The dream was over in private. He began battling a new enemy, the reality that his body could no longer do what his mind still longed for. The failed comeback wasn't just a missed opportunity. It became a stark reminder that time, no matter how much we fight, it always wins in March 2025. Shocking news broke that Oscar de la Hoya had been hospitalized in critical condition. The details were scarce. The updates, animal sources close to the family described the situation as serious and life-threatening. The exact cause was not disclosed publicly, but those familiar with Oscar's long-term health journey believed it stemmed from a combination of years of physical abuse from boxing, long-term effects of substance recovery, and internal damage accumulated over decades. One insider stated it wasn't one thing. It was everything. His body had been in survival mode for years. It was a tragic development for a man who had once been the symbol of youth, strength, and possibility. Fans who had grown up idolizing the Golden Boy were now left refreshing news pages, hoping for even a sliver of good news. His company, Golden Boy Promotions, released a short, carefully worded statement asking for privacy and confirming that he was under close medical care. No details, no timeline concern his family too. Stayed silent except for a short message posted by one of his children. "Please keep our dad in your prayers." The boxing world responded immediately. Fighters, fans, and journalists flooded social media with tributes and messages of support. Canelo Alvarez, who once called Oscar his mentor, posted a broken heart emoji, alongside a throwback photo of the two Ryan Garcia, rising star under Golden Boy Promotions, shared a message saying, "He believed in me before the world did, praying for you." Boss, in that silence, the heartbreak was loud. A fighter who had made it through every round life threw at him now faced one more opponent, and no one knew if he'd get back up the industry. The fans and the family all waited with bated breath, hoping that the Golden Boy had one last comeback left in him, For all of Oscar de la Hoya's glory in the ring, perhaps his most difficult fight was the one outside of it, with family, with fatherhood, and with fractured relationships that fame and addiction only widened. Oscar was a father to multiple children from different relationships, and over the years those ties became increasingly complicated. The image of the perfect champion began to fade, revealing a man who often struggled to balance success with responsibility. He admitted in interviews that he wasn't always present, especially during the most crucial years of his children's lives. In 2022, Oscar told a reporter, "I was never the father I wanted to be. I'm trying to fix that before it's too late." It was a rare moment of humility and honesty and admission that his fame came at a cost, while he posted photos with his kids on social media. In later years, those close to him said the deeper healing was still in progress. Years of emotional distance, inconsistent involvement, and personal demons had left scars that weren't easily erased by a dinner or a photo op. His desire to rebuild, however, was clear. Began attending more family events, showing up for milestones he once missed. Oscar also experienced public fractures in his professional family. One of the most painful was the falling out with Canelo Alvarez, the superstar he helped build under Golden Boy Promotions. In 2020, Canelo sued Oscar's company, citing issues with management and broken trust. The legal battle spilled into the media, with both sides trading harsh words. The betrayal cut deep, not just professionally, but personally. De La Hoya had seen Canelo as the future of his brand. Watching that relationship implode was another chapter in a long pattern of once strong bonds falling apart now. As he lies in critical condition, many of those unfinished conversations and attempts at healing have taken on a greater weight his family, once caught in the whirlwind of fame and dysfunction, is left to make the decisions he may never have prepared for the man who once controlled million-dollar contracts, and global promotions is now silent, while those he left behind try to piece together what's next. The fight for reconciliation, the one he only began late in life, may be left unfinished. Oscar de la Hoya's legacy isn't just a list of titles or dazzling highlight reels. It's something more complex or human. Yes, he won Olympic gold. Yes, he was a world champion in 6 divisions. Yes, he headlined some of the biggest pay-per-view fights in boxing history. But the story that will remain isn't just one of athletic dominance. It's one of pain, pressure, perseverance, and ultimately the pursuit of peace from the outside. Oscar had it all: fame, money, adoration. But as the years unfolded, it became clear that behind the designer suits and million-dollar smile was a man constantly wrestling with inner demons, addiction, depression, identity. He didn't just fight opponents. He fought for self-worth every time he stepped in the ring. It was a battle to be seen, to be loved, to prove that he was more than just a pretty face or a marketable brand. He changed boxing not just with his skills, but with his business acumen and crossover appeal. He brought boxing back to the mainstream, opened doors for Latin fighters, and revolutionized promotion through Golden Boy. But his legacy will also include his flaws, the scandals, the missteps, the broken relationships. That's what makes it powerful. Because Oscar never claimed to be perfect. He was just trying to find peace in a world that never let him rest. And now, as he lies in critical condition, the world waits. If this is the end, it will be the end of a man who gave everything, sometimes too much, to the sport he loved, but it won't be the end of the story. His influence is forever woven into boxing's fabric fighters. He mentored promotions. He built fans. He inspired. Those echoes will live on.